You know that feeling, right? That explosion of energy, the colors, those characters, you just instantly know. Dragon Ball's visual power is, well, it's undeniable.
It really is. But it's so much more than just cool fights. Akira Toriyama's art, the way it evolved for Dragon Ball, it's this incredible journey.
Yeah, it really mirrors the story itself, doesn't it? From like fun adventures to these massive cosmic showdowns.
Exactly.
So today, that's what we're diving into, the visual transformation itself. We're going to trace that whole artistic path, from the first manga panels right up to the animation, practically leaping off the screen now.
Yeah, our mission really is to unpack how the style changed, what influenced it, and why it's had such a massive impact. It's a real visual saga we're exploring based on the materials you share.
Okay, perfect. So let's start where it all began, early Dragon Ball. The sources really paint a picture of Toriyama's initial approach, right?
They definitely do. And one of the key things is just how much his previous hit, Dr. Slump, played into it. That influence is huge early on.
You can totally see it. So how did that Dr. Slump vibe, actually show up in the designs and the feel of early Dragon Ball? What did the sources say?
Well, they point to the characters being much more rounded, softer looking compared to later on. And proportions get played with a lot, often for laughs, like chibi moments, super expressive, almost goofy faces sometimes.
Yeah.
The whole tone was just lighter, more adventurous, and the art really matched that. Clean, charming, kind of like Dr. Slump's world, but, for Goku's first quests.
And that foundational style carried into the original anime too, didn't it? Bright colors, really expressive animation. It just felt right for the early story.
Absolutely. That early anime was super faithful. It brought those charming manga panels to life really well. It laid the groundwork visually.
But then things changed big time. The move to Dragon Ball Z, that wasn't just the story getting more serious, the whole look shifted. What are the specific visual markers for that change?
Oh, the most obvious thing is the characters themselves. They just got way more muscular, seriously bulked up. And the lines in the art got much sharper, cleaner, more angular. Expressions weren't just funny anymore. They were intense, strained, angry, powerful. It reflected the higher stakes.
And this is where one source mentioned a really interesting outside influence starting to appear, something about Western comics.
Yeah, that's right. The focus on these really powerful, defined bodies and those incredibly dynamic action poses. It starts to feel a bit like classic superhero art. It seems like Toriyama was maybe pulling in some of that emphasis on displaying raw physical power.
And the animation itself had to change to keep up, I imagine.
Oh, completely. It took on a much more mature, dramatic tone. It wasn't about smooth, bouncy movement so much anymore. It was about showing the sheer scale of the power levels, the impact, the weight of the energy blasts, the intensity of stuff like the Super Saiyan transformation. The visuals had to evolve because the story demanded it.
Okay, so we go from that rounder, Dr. Slumpish look to this sharp, intense, muscular style for Z, kind of pulling from superhero vibes. But the evolution didn't stop cold after Z, did it?
No, definitely not. When you look at what came after, like Dragon Ball GT and then Dragon Ball Super, you see different attempts to carry the torch, stylistically, with varying degrees of success sometimes.
Dragon Ball GT wasn't based on Toriyama's manga, but I remembered the sources saying it had its own visual identity, slightly different character proportions, a bit more stylized maybe.
Exactly. And then with Dragon Ball Super, the goal seemed pretty clear. Take that classic Toriyama look and update it, for modern audiences in production.
But that came with challenges, right? The sources mentioned something fans definitely picked up on. The animation quality wasn't always consistent.
Yeah, that's a key point they raised, the varying quality across different story arcs.
Why was that, according to the sources? What caused the dips sometimes?
It often boiled down to, production realities. Tight schedules, different animation teams, maybe handling different parts of the series. So while some bits looked amazing, super fluid, using modern techniques really effectively, other parts could feel a bit rushed. You'd get moments where characters looked slightly off model, or the action maybe didn't have quite the same punch as Peak Z or the movies.
Right.
It really highlights how tough it is to consistently adapt a beloved manga style for a long-running modern anime, trying to balance that legacy with new methods.
That's a really interesting behind-the-scenes insight. But okay, outside the weekly grind of the TV show, the movies often seem like the place where they could really cut loose with the animation.
That's absolutely been the case, especially recently. The movies have become these huge visual events. Dragon Ball Super, Brawly is a prime example the sources brought up. a total spectacle.
What made Broly stand out so much visually? What did they pinpoint?
Just incredible fluidity in the animation. The camera work was so dynamic, moving with the action, giving this amazing sense of speed and scale.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the fights just felt like they had real weight and impact. It wasn't just flashing lights. It really felt like it set a new bar for how Dragon Ball could look in motion.
And then for the next movie, Dragon Ball Superhero, they took a completely different approach. A pretty bold one, the sources noted.
Yeah, that shift to full CGI animation.
Right.
Which, definitely got people talking.
For sure.
But the sources suggest that this style allowed for a different kind of detail, especially in character expressions. And it gave the action a unique, maybe more solid, almost tactile feel. It really showed the franchise isn't afraid to experiment, to try new tech.
So from that early hand-drawn charm to pushing CGI limits, the movies have had their own huge evolution. But digging through all this change, Dr. Slump roots, Z's intensity, Super's modernization struggles, the cinematic leaps, there's still something constant, isn't there?
Yeah.
What is it about Toriyama's original art that just always shines through?
That's the core of it, his enduring principles. The sources keep coming back to it. His character designs are just instantly recognizable. Even when the proportions shift over the years, it's a Toriyama character. His knack for dynamic poses, even someone just standing looks ready for anything.
Total.
And maybe most importantly, those incredibly expressive faces. Fury, terror, goofiness, determination, it's all right there. So clear and impactful. Even how he laid out panels in the manga, it informs so much of how the action feels. It's masterful.
That's the Dragon Ball DNA, isn't it? And his style, it's not just iconic for this one series. The sources really stress how much he influenced generations of other artists, manga, anime, all over the world. He basically shaped a huge part of Japanese pop culture's look.
It's just a powerful testament to a unique artistic vision. It really is.
So we've tracked this amazing visual ride from the rounder, adventurous feel of early Dragon Ball with those Dr. Slump echoes,
Right.
through the sharp, muscular intensity of Z influenced by superheroes, then into the complexities of modernizing for Super and those big, boundary-pushing movie experiments.
And it's an evolution that makes sense, right? It mirrors the story growing bigger, more dramatic.
Yeah.
The art style itself is just, it's still inspiring. A true visual saga.
It really is a visual language that says so much. Which kind of leaves one big question for you, listening right now, thinking about this whole visual history we've unpacked.
Yeah, what's your favorite era of Dragon Ball's art? Which look resonates the most with you personally?
Is it that classic, charming, original series style?
Or the raw, intense energy you get from Z? Maybe the modern take-in Super clicks with you? Or is it the super smooth, high-octane animation of the recent films like Brawly?
It's interesting to think about how those different styles maybe change how you even experience the story itself. Something to chew on.